Y'all, you cool cats. I can't do it. Alright, so I'm trying to think of an intro. It's whatever. We'll get there. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Get a good laugh. So let's talk about journaling. Yeah, see, that was just too silly. I can't even be serious after you say something like that. I just for days have been like, I'm gonna do it. So I had to do it. Alright. No, that's done. We've had that experience. Let me know what you think. Alright. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Like I said, today we're going to talk about journaling. A lot of people talk about you see a lot of people ask, what is the most important thing in paganism or in Wiccan or practicing this faith? What are some of the things that you need to do? What are some important tools? And those kind of questions. And I think that something that doesn't get enough credit is journaling. And if I was to say one physical tool that you should have, it's a journal. You can call your journal a book of shadows, you can call it a grimoire, you can call it whatever you want, a book, a notebook, a journal. But the act of it is to write down your thoughts and feelings and practice and magic and divination and all of the different things that you do so that you can reference and look back over it and kind of reflect on that and have that information. It's also really useful if you're doing work with like herbs or stones, because you can write down, okay, here are the stones that I have, here are the herbs that I'm using, here's what their meaning is, here's how that goes. I'll show you some examples when we get there. So there are a lot of questions, and it seems like, okay, when you say, okay, go journal, it's like, oh, that's so easy. But then people get really stressed out. Like, does it need to be handwritten? Can I type it? Can I put it in a fancy book or a notebook, or can it just be on scrap pieces of paper? Like, exactly what should it be, and how should I keep this? And the answer is really how you want to keep it. If you are the type of person who wants to type everything, more power to you, do it. I love talk to text, so I use it a lot, and so a lot of things end up getting typed because I'll be driving and I'll have this thought and I can just open up a Google Doc and hit talk to text and start talking into it. Now, when I get to where I'm going or look at it later, I have to translate through the speech corrections or whatever, but it just helps get things out and onto paper. And then, so, you can type it. I also find, though, if I'm trying to be creative or write a spell or write a lesson, honestly, like trying to teach something, it's much easier for me to get out a pencil and write it down. I like the feeling of pencil to paper, like an old-fashioned, you got a wood, whatever, and so that's my thing. I have notebooks everywhere. And then some of that information gets transferred into the computer. And then some notebooks end up being notebooks that I keep. It's not going to go anywhere. And that spiral notebook will join the rest of my book of shadows. I have a whole shelf on the in the bookshelf. But that's what it is. And so really it's whatever works for you. I can say some mistakes that I've made during my practice is I have a book of shadows that's written in Theban. If you're not aware what Theban is, it's that really pretty witch alphabet. So it's not like I speak Theban. I imagine it's a real language, but I did like most people do in the early practice, and I took my spell and I letter for letter changed it from English letters to Theban letters. I did one with Om when I was learning how to do Om, the stick with the lines, flies. And I can't read either of those journals. I mean, I could if I sat down and deciphered them, but I can't read them. I keep them because it's a good lesson for me. I also think it'll be fun someday when my kids are old enough, or my grandkids, or somebody comes across it and they're like, what is this, Grandma? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you decipher it? It'll be a fun activity. But that's just one of those lessons that I had to learn. So I would recommend writing it in a language that you understand, whatever language that may be. And whatever you're most comfortable with. You know, when I went and saw Da Vinci stuff, I hope I have that right. Yeah, when I went and saw Da Vinci stuff at the museum, he wrote all of his journals backwards, like he had to look at them with a mirror. So I just wonder if he spent all that time with the mirror, or if his brain was dyslexic enough that he could read that way. Amazing. But you have to be able to read it. So whatever method you choose, you want to be able to read it. You don't want to write everything in neon pink so that you can't read it. Just, you want it to be usable. Another mistake that I've made is being scared to write in books. And I still make this mistake only because other people buy me really fancy books. I'll show you an example. I love this book. It's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so the front is like woven beautifulness. I can't, let's see closer. See, it's like hand woven. You even got some like whatever. It's got this beautiful little wood bookmark. And check out the pages. They're like recycled linen. Oh my god, fancy. It's a beautiful gift and I absolutely love it. Someday I'll find something special enough to write in it. But as you can see, it's completely empty. I think my daughter might have. No, not this one. Sometimes my daughter will find these books and she'll write math problems in them because she's like, it's a book, it's blank. So this book is beautiful and it's intimidating to write in. So if all you ever buy is journals or books like this, either just write in them and get over that intimidating factor, or don't buy books like this. In reality, the books that I like the most to write in are not books at all. Bam! They are spiral notebooks. Like this one even has a table of contents on the cover for some of the stuff. But as you can see, I say for some of the stuff, it literally has 2 things on the table of contents, and there might be 2 pages at the end of this that are empty. So I have to it's work to look through them, but I know because I wrote them. And I can remember, oh, okay, it was in the middle, and it was like this. Oh, that's not it. Okay, it was this one. Sometimes there are little notes, or sometimes they'll have titles. I even show you a lot of doodling with my kids. Let's see. Can you see them? Oh, there you go. You see them? We do a lot of doodling, and I just write right over it. My little one will color with me. And these things are... When it's in a spiral notebook like this, it's ideas, it's whatever, it's notes, it's learning, and it just gets put in like this. And these are things that typically go somewhere else, although I do have some from like very early on in my practice where I like took the notes on how to make a perfect pentagram, or just basic information that I still use today. And so I'll pull it out and I'll look at it and I'll reference that. And those ones have a better table of contents. I actually wrote it on the back. But because they're full and I use them in that manner, I put page numbers and a table of contents. And so it's almost like an almanac, I guess, from that year in my pagan practice. And that I find incredibly useful. I have one that's just the gods. And so each page is a different god. And I can still add to it and use it, and it's still productive. But it's something that I can take with me. It's something I don't need power for. And like I said, I really like putting pencil to paper. So whenever I see them available, these hard black books with no lines, because I don't like the lines, are some of my favorite. And as you can see, I'll draw in them. This is actually a tattoo sketch. I have this tattoo on my leg. It's my air fairy. Oh, look, there she is in color. Anyways, so, but there's also like crazy, sometimes when I meditate, I'll draw mazes. and it just helps me to be in that moment and to kind of go through there. But again, these don't have table of contents. Like there's an in-bulk prayer. Here's a meditation that I wrote. I don't even know what it's for. I wrote, something about the sun. But it's a meditation that I wrote. And this is from a long time ago. Here are agricultural groups that sell organic seeds, which I'll have to write a whole blog on that. I'm working on getting the website going. But anyways, so water associations. Okay, so whatever it is, that's how I use it in my practice. With my mania and magic, if I try to confine that into this book is only for this, and this book is only for this, and we only do it like this, and everything has to be typed and spell checked and beautiful. Good morning, crop dusters. I know, I moved one block into city limits. One block. Anyways, so, but I know people who, like my sister, she looks at my Book of Shadows and it stresses her out because it's so scattered and it's so all over the place, and she's like, how do you find any information? And sometimes it's frustrating, like when I'm looking for something specific, like how to draw the perfect pentagram. If I can't remember what the book looks like that it's in, or I have like 5 black books that look just, I mean, the covers do look different because they've been with me through different times. I used to carry them in my bag with me. And the covers all have something different. One of the covers has a sketch of a garden in it. Like this one talks about altar tools. You know, it just really depends on where I was at. But so that's one method that I really enjoy, and it helps me not feel like I'm so confined. But I do know people who, like my sister, she has a Book of Shadows for her garden, and it's absolutely amazing. One of these days I'll try to get her in her Book of Shadows and make a video and see if she'll let me do that. I don't know, we'll see. She's not all about being on camera, but it's beautiful. It's color-coded. She makes rough drafts before she puts it into the Book of Shadows. It's got dates and times and the meanings of each plant, and it made me jealous. I was like, oh, I need one of those, but I could not do it like that, and I'll show you my version of my garden Book of Shadows. It is not as pretty as hers. And then she's got another Book of Shadows for other things, and she's got different books for different practices, parts of her practice. And they're all very beautiful, and they all have table of contents, and they're all written very nicely, and there's some blank pages between the things so that it's easy to get, it's very clean, it's very beautiful. And then, I know people who their entire Book of Shadows is on the computer. Nothing is handwritten, everything is typed. It's all organized into files with pictures and labels, and they can type in their computer and pull up whatever it is they need. And I know people who have a mixture of both. I know people who say, no, you can only write magic stuff in pen, black pen, in hardbound books with linen paper. Otherwise, it's not good enough. And that's how they feel about their practice, and more power to you. But like I said, I don't like to feel like my practice is confined to one specific way of doing it. So anyway, in that moment, I have scribbled notes. So we were talking about the garden one. I got this as a gift. It's one of those Amazon, somebody spent the time to make a 100-page journal that says, I am goddess. I didn't even think I was going to use it at first, but then like I said, I saw my sister's garden Book of Shadows. I was like, oh my god, I got to do something like that. So I have plants in my garden from 2020, and I list all of the plants and the beds and the order in which they go. I do not draw a picture. I did not color code. It is literally just a list, and that's easy for me to use. I wrote down my zone so that I know what plants that I need to bring inside. And then I just started. So the first plant when you come into my path on my garden is lemon balm. So that's what I wrote. And so I wrote all about lemon balm. I have some tincture and some goo and some other things that you can make with lemon balm and how to make them. I have all of the different principles. I have things that are scientifically proven, like they've studied it. And so they found that it can be, let's see, it's safe for children, it's antiviral, it's antihistaminic, so it'll help with like allergic reactions, kind of like a natural antihistamine. And then I have this great bug spray recipe that I came across, which, can you see it? Oh, I'll hold it there for a second. Let's see, come on, focus. There you go, bug spray. Oh yeah, see, again, the doodling of my children, because my children are part of my practice, and if they're sitting next to me and the book is sitting there and they're like, can I color? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So, and then I just keep going through, and like I have lemon thyme, which I learned is not a genus of like a mix between lemon, thyme, and something that's lemony flavor. It's actually its own plant. Amazing. Anyways, so then I also have things like this. This is a Zeus something, the dark Zeus snake god. Awesome. I'm going to get it tattooed on me. I love it. But this is, just stuck in here. Anyways, so that's kind of how that goes. It's a little bit neater in that there will be little, so I have the lemon balm section, and I was very thorough, and I went through and got all the information I wanted about lemon balm. And then I moved on to the next plant, and then the next one, and I just continue going through until I get all the plants done, and I'll have the magical meaning, the purpose, the zone, the how to collect and harvest, what they're used for magically and medicinally, what scientifically has been proven, what hasn't, blah, 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 all those kind of things. But that's one of those things that journaling is so important for. You have to write those things down. I've tried so many different ways. When I started out in my practice, I made 3x5 little 3x5 cards. I have them in a box somewhere for each herb, as I learned about the herb. And it says the herb, the scientific name, the zone it grows in, where it's found, some mythology. Is it edible? Is it toxic? Is it blah, 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 blah. Because I wanted, in my vision at that moment, I wanted one of those like old library catalog walls. It's got all the drawers, and you can just pull everything out and have your card. And that's great. Before I had children, when I had lots of free time. But I still haven't found one of those catalog thingies that's like reasonably priced. And so I kind of just was like, okay, that's not realistic. Maybe someday in the very far future I'll have something of that nature, but not right now. And that's fine. It's way more productive for me to write in this little book that I can carry with me, that I can take outside, that I can look at, hold, and touch, and use. Because again, the most important thing about your journaling is that it's usable for you, and that you do it. So when you do a card reading, you write it down. When you have a dream, you write it down. When you have a feeling, you write it down. When you have a new experience, you write it down. And all of these things will help you understand you, And sometimes you question it. You're like, okay, really, is this valuable? In my Book of Shadows, I have journal entries. Just when I'm very emotional, it goes into my Book of Shadows, and that's where I keep that information. And so during a recent transition in my life, I was looking through one of my journals for something totally unrelated to that, but I found a journal entry, and I read the first paragraph of it, and it was amazing to me that the things that I wrote in 2009 were the same things that I was feeling now. And to have that, or 2008, whatever it was, to have that circle and to be able to see that on paper and be like, wow, it helped me really reflect. Is this the cycle that I want to continue? Now I really see this cycle. Not a question of the cycle, but this is the cycle. And there was a while where I was like, oh, this just cycles through and it's not a big deal because the annual cycle is whatever. But then I saw the grand cycle. But if it hadn't been for my journal, I would not have seen that. And wouldn't have been able to make that decision with that hindsight and that understanding of like, wow, okay, no, this isn't just a whatever. This is a reoccurring problem that isn't getting better. So if you don't write it down, then you can't see those things. I've had other journal entries that I've read where I read it and I'd be like, wow, okay, I really do see the difference. In the beginning of my husband and I's relationship, this thing was happening and we worked through this. And now I don't have those feelings anymore. We've moved past that. You know, there's not all of those issues. And so you can see that reflection and you can see that change, both in a positive and a negative way. And just knowing that is good for your psyche. It's good for your emotional well-being, and it helps you reflect. And when it comes to doing your magic, if you do a spell and you don't write down what happened or what you did, then the next time you go to do a spell like that, yeah, you're thinking, that spell works really well, but what ingredients did I use? Well, if you wrote it down, then you'd know. So it's great. If you're doing card readings, I always tell people when they're like, I just started with the tarot or the divination cards of some kind, how do I start with it? And I tell them, wait to read the book, spend a day with each card, hold it, think about it, meditate with it, put it in your purse, your pocket, carry it with you, see how it makes you feel throughout the day, feel that energy, look at that card, be with that energy, and sleep with it under your pillow and journal, write it all down, and then read what the book says about that card, and then pick a new card. Maybe even go through all the cards before you read the book, because your energy and connection with that card are the most important thing, and you have to write them down. I'll never forget the card reading where the fairies told me to literally go take a shower. Like, I needed to reset, I needed to refresh, I needed to and the way that I needed to do that was to go cleanse spiritually and emotionally and physically. Like, go clean, cut your hair, do a thing, feel better. But that's not what the book said. I'm spending time in the collection of cards that I got with them and knowing that, that's what it was. And I went and did that and I felt better. And I was like, okay, and I wrote that down. Okay, well, this combination of cards is telling me to do this. And gotta write it down. Just write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. So, the most important tool in your practice, it's like a physical tool, is your journal. Be that a book, fancy, not fancy, spiral notebook. I've got a Trapper Keeper downstairs from 2003 that literally back then when I was poor, I would rent books out from the library, and if it had really valuable, really good information, I would photocopy it and I would put it together like a little book, the parts that I was keeping. And so that Trapper Keeper is full. It's got like Ian McCoy books, it's got all, it's funny. But whatever works for you, just do that and keep that and write it down and write it down, or talk to text it or type it or however it works for you. But just do that and keep a journal. You will find that it adds value to your practice. It'll help you reflect on your practice. It'll help you grow your practice and all of the important things that you need to do. So, without more rambling about journaling, everybody go get a journal and write something down. Okay? I hope that you have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all soon, and have a blessed day.